It has not been what one would call a good week for the REM, and certainly for people on the South Shore trying to get to work every day. It's been a really tough week. But the other part of the story is this is not unique to this past week. It's been happening a lot. There have been breakdowns. There have been days without service, to the point where now the mayor of Brossard, Doreen Assad, is saying perhaps we need to rethink how we're dealing with commuters, if you will, on the South Shore by reinstating those bus lines, the 45 and the 90, that were there, but then, of course, when the REM was introduced, were taken away. So let's try to delve into this a little bit more. As I said, Doreen Assad, the mayor of Brossard, is on the line. Thank you, first of all, for being here. And second of all, I can imagine as the mayor there, you probably heard from a lot of citizens wondering what the heck is going on.
Well, a lot of people have called me, and I've also seen some of the videos that were being shared online and whatnot, showing the stress and the anxiety caused by the repetitive, breakdowns or stoppage of the REM. And I'm saying enough is enough. It's unacceptable to hold users of public transportation hostage like this. So this element of exclusivity really needs to be relooked at. And I'm asking, exactly as you said, for us to go back to the way it was before, when we had the express shuttle buses, the 45 and the 90, that enabled people to go very fluidly and quickly from the city of Brossard downtown.
So first of all, for people who don't know or perhaps don't remember, the idea of the buses being taken away was basically to save the REM from any competition. Is it fair to describe it that way?
I guess they'd be best to answer why they forced this exclusivity, but I really feel that for them, they were worried that people wouldn't jump on board in using the REM. Mm-hmm. And what bothers me with that is the frequency is fast enough for it to have been an interesting option for people, because the 45 and the 90, they were really during the morning peak hours, and at the end of the day, yes, it would go onwards, but at a much lower frequency. So there's interest in the REM. The thought of being able to take the REM to go all the way to the airport one day is something that will be very interesting for the population. But in the meantime, don't force them to use a system that's not reliable. Allow them to have choice. I think the onus is on them now to prove that they have something interesting to offer the population.
So I imagine as people hear this, obviously people would be in agreement. It just simply doesn't make sense when a system has its issues. And it's not like it happened, as I said, off the top once or twice. This is happening on a repeated basis. So it would make sense to offer buses. I would ask if you have talked to the ARTM about this, but I see in the story on it that they said they have taken your request under advisement. What does that mean? What has your discussion with them been?
There's been no discussion, but I'm going to keep continuing with the same message until the provincial government and transport minister, they all take a look at this file and understand that the current situation, the status quo, is unacceptable.
Okay. Are you suggesting that there has been, outside of you bringing this up the other day and saying we should probably look at this and consider changing it, there has been no discussion with any level of government over this?
Well, it's difficult for me to answer that question, because every chance I've had to collaborate, to ask them to do things in a phased approach, to not close Chevry too quickly, because that used to be an interesting option for people to be able to park to take the 90 bus. I find that it has not been fluid. It has not been easy. Mm-hmm. So as a mayor, I'm dealing with so much difficulty in terms of the complexity with all the players and the lack of listening. I can't even imagine what it's like for the citizens.
As I hear you say that, I'm thinking to myself, you're kind of like a lone voice in the wind here, Mayor, because you have your citizens calling you. You're the one saying we need to do something else, and no one else is like standing next to you going, yeah, this is a great idea, including the people who are responsible for it in the first place.
Well, it's a challenge that we all have, but I have a feeling that there are a lot of mayors that lend their support and their understanding in terms of, the situation that we're going through.
Well, so then let me ask, what happens next?
Well, I'm going to finish this round of interviews and then put pressure for them to reopen the agreement. I think once I get a response back in terms of that request, we'll be able to constructively move forward so that the RTL can retake control that they used to have. People will have something viable and secure in which they can depend on. And hopefully then the onus will be on the REM to demonstrate that they can do all the tests that they want And once they become an interesting option, people will take the REM. But right now, what's happening is people are so upset, they're going back to the car. And that, for me, is really, it's a fail.
You know, I will tell you, I read a comment this morning because we've been talking about the REM and the problems with it through the course of the week, right? And I thought, here's the most unassuring thing I've heard. They say, don't worry, by next winter, you won't have to deal with this anymore.
Really, a third
next winter.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best apparently they
So
can tell us.
basically, they've been a test case study.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. They pay for their pass, by the way. The people who have been taking the REM paid for it. It's not free. So, at some point, you have to respect the people and take them into consideration and take charge so that they really feel that they're respected and that the reality is understood.
You mentioned other mayors would perhaps get behind this, and that's understandable. Is there any plan for you to get together with them and make a public statement altogether?
Let's see how hopefully the ARTM will review its position in the coming days, and if they don't, that might definitely become a possibility.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Unless you can tell me you are also, whether they tell you anything or they meet with you or not, you just put the buses back anyway.
I think they can just put it in the buses and it's settled, honestly. It can take meetings, and I don't think people have time for that anymore. I think the request is pretty clear, and personally, I don't even think that they should wait. They should just announce that they'll do it. People will be relieved. And in the end, eventually, when other stations open and it's just more viable and more secure, people will come back.
I hate to say it, it sounds like what you just said makes far too much sense. All right. Mayor, thank you. I appreciate your time. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.